Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. The City Council and Peabody Municipal Light Commission will convene on Tuesday, February 21st, to hold a special meeting at 6:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws in Section 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021, signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised live by Peabody Access Television on Cable Channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio options. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by the City Council stenographer. Let's all rise for a moment of silence. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that Councillor McGinn is joining us remote this evening. Because he is participating via Zoom, each of our votes this evening will be via roll call. Mr. Paris.
Okay, what I'd like to say is, as chairman of the Peabody Municipal Light Commission this year, I delegate that Tom D'Amato will fulfill my role this time at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paris, and thank you, Commissioner D'Amato. The clerk will now read the legal notice.
In accordance with Chapter 286 of the Acts of 1951, an act establishing a municipal light commission for the City of Peabody as amended, the Peabody City Council and the remaining members of the Peabody Municipal Light Commission will meet in a joint convention to elect a person to fill the vacancy on said municipal light commission caused by the resignation of Charles W. Bonfanti. Said joint convention will be held on Tuesday evening, February 21st, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. Any person wishing to have their name placed in nomination is requested to submit to the City Clerk's Office, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., a letter of intent along with a resume. The deadline for filing said notice of intent and resume will be Friday, February 10th, 2023, to the City Clerk's Office, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. by 12 o'clock noon. Candidates cannot be nominated from the floor if a letter of intent and resume is not submitted by the February 10th, 2023 deadline. Peabody City Council and Peabody Municipal Light Commission.
Thank you, Clerk Danforth. Councillor Gamache, could you provide us with a motion to receive communication?
Go to Don Kahn before that. Is the parliamentarian to go over the
Yes.
the attached?
Thank you, Councillor Gamache. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to outline the proposed rules for the joint convention this evening. Number 1, only the members of the City Council and the Peabody Municipal Light Commission, the City Clerk, and the parliamentarian shall address the body of participants in the meeting. Secondly, reconsideration shall not be in order. Third, any member may place in nomination the name of any person legally qualified to hold the office of Municipal Light Commissioner. Candidates can only be nominated through the application process. After nominations are closed, no additional names may be submitted, and only those who have been nominated may receive votes. Candidates whose names have been placed in nomination shall be allowed to present a 5-minute statement of candidacy to the Joint Commission. The City Council and the Municipal Light Commission shall vote in alphabetical order by last name. A candidate who receives a majority of 8 or more votes on the same roll call shall be elected to fill the vacancy on the Light Commission, and the city solicitor shall serve as parliamentarian for this proceeding. Those are rules that are proposed for the Joint Commission to adopt.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. Councilors and commissioners, you've heard the rules. Can we get a roll call vote to accept those rules? Could I get a motion for?
Motion to accept the rules.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. You've heard the motion. On the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors and Commissioners Aylward. Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Paris. Peach.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato. Motion carries.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, at this time, I would make the motion to receive the withdrawal from a candidate, Martin Cohen. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors and commissioners, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors, Commissioners Aylward.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache. Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin.
Yes.
O'Neill. Paris. Peach. Rozignol.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Councilor Gamache, could we get a motion to receive and place into nomination the candidates?
I would, at this time, move to receive and place into nomination the candidates as stated: William C. Bacon, 1 Bar Road; Edward J. Colbert, 15 Forenza Road; Mark A. Nazaro, 16 Apple Hill Road; Thomas J. Pappas, 173 Winona Street; Tracy M. Valetti, 20 Emerson Street; Nancy Veracci, 2 Carpenter Street; and Robert O. Wheatley, 19 Southwick Ave. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors and commissioners, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors, Commissioners Aylward.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Gould. Manning Martin. McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin. O'Neill.
Yes.
Paris. Peach.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Turco. Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Could I get a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close the nominations.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilors and commissioners, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors, Commissioners Aylward.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache. Gould. Manning Martin. McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Paris. Peach.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, at this time, I will make the motion to approve all nominations. So moved.
Councilors and commissioners, you've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors, Commissioners Aylward.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache. Gould. Manning Martin. McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Paris. Peach.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, councilors and commissioners. At this time, we'd like to call the candidates to the podium. The candidates will be called in alphabetical order and will each be giving approximately 5 minutes to discuss their background and their interest in the open position. Just a point of housekeeping, prior to the candidates coming to the podium, could we get a motion to adopt the rules for this evening's proceedings?
Move to adopt the rules of order. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. We did? Okay. Okay, we're good. We're going to move on to call the candidates to the podium. Again, it's going to be 5 minutes per each candidate. will be in alphabetical order. Our first candidate this evening is William G. Bacon from 1 Bar Road. For the record, if you could just state your name and your address.
My name is William Bacon from 1 Bar Road in Peabody. Okay. Good evening, commissioners and council members. I appreciate you taking into consideration my candidacy for the Peabody Municipal Light Commission. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Peabody. I studied database design at Merrimack College. I got a master's in information technology at Southern New Hampshire University. And I've worked in healthcare IT since about 2010. And really what underscores my experience is seeing how technology, information systems, and data can really improve our lives, and the insights, how valuable the insights are that can be gained from it. I was a seasonal intern at PMLP in high school and in college for several years. And while there, I saw how dedicated the entire staff there were to adopting new technology, helping the community, and really doing their best to provide the best customer service possible. I was there at the beginning and middle of the migration off of the old VAX billing system towards the adoption of a new one. And since then, I've seen how effective both the advanced electric meters that have been installed over the last several years, the new billing system, the flexibility that those provide to the community as a whole, and all the modernization projects that have been undertaken over the last almost 2 decades now. Just as a small example, with the new system, now I can, from my phone, look at my usage data, see how much energy I'm using, identify opportunities to cut down my own consumption, and even tie that in with smart devices in my house to identify what devices are maybe using more electricity than they otherwise should, and again, cut down my energy usage. The healthcare company I work for makes medical records, and I joined them right as the High-Tech Act came into effect, which strongly encouraged healthcare organizations to implement electronic health records and take advantage of large-scale data to improve the care that they provide. I focused most of my time there on large-scale data analytics, as well as more recently cloud security, and I've seen how much the technology landscape has transformed this industry, and the potential for it to also similarly transform the local energy industry and provide PMLP a new platform to better meet the needs of our community. Customers want the flexibility to access their account information. They want access to their data wherever, whenever. And one of the responsibilities that I feel we have is to enable them to do that safely, meaning by making all of this information available online, it's great for the flexibility it provides, but we also need to be mindful of security. We have a lot of very sensitive data. The light plant houses a multitude of personal, sensitive information. There's sensitive internal information that it needs to be able to provide to other stakeholders within the company in a secure fashion without exposing that unnecessarily. So again, even though the industries are slightly different, I think there's a very similar focus on the need to the need to safely implement new technology platforms and continually modernize what we can provide our respective communities. So that's the unique perspective that I feel I can add to the commission. Again, thank you so much for considering me.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Do any of the councilors or commissioners have any questions for the candidate? Councilor Rossignol.
First, thank you very much for putting your nomination papers in, and I appreciate your time. My one quick question is, what do you think your biggest weakness is regarding applying for this position?
My biggest weakness in this position in particular might be my lack of direct energy industry experience. I did have some exposure to it during my internship, but admittedly over the last several years, most of my experience has been in healthcare, with some overlap though at the same time in regards to security and the risks and mitigation approaches that are required to safeguard personal information.
Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. One last question. On your cover letter, you said vampire devices. What did you mean by that?
So vampire devices are devices that when you think they're turned off, they're not actually turned off. Most TVs now, for example, don't, strictly speaking, turn off. They go into a sort of standby mode that still consumes electricity, admittedly smaller or less energy than when they're turned on. So those in aggregate can result in a lot of excess usage that you may not otherwise be aware of. And for me, integrating the data that I was able to pull down from the customer portal, I used that to track down some malfunctioning devices in my own house that were drawing significantly more energy than I expected.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Any other councilors or commissioners? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll echo Councilor Rossignol's comments to Mr. Bacon and to all candidates who've put forth their names and nominations and done the work to apply for this position. In terms of just your own personality traits or skills, is there one or two of those that you would bring working together as a group as part of the commission? You can name one or two, or just key items that you think that you would bring working as a group as part of the commission. Thank you.
Yep. I think my biggest personality trait is my eagerness to learn. As I mentioned previously, I do have limited experience within the industry, but again, I feel that my perspective and experience with security, I can lend some additional insight as the light plant moves forward in implementing new platforms, new technology, and continuing their modernization journey. I feel I can provide an appropriate perspective as far as the best approaches, other considerations that should be made, and ultimately help the light plant take the best path forward to safely take advantage of new technology.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors or commissioners with questions this evening for Mr. Bacon? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to call Mr. Edward Colbert to the podium. Hello, Mr. Colbert. If you could just provide your name and your address for the record.
Hi, Edward Colbert, 15 Forenza Road in Peabody.
Thank you, Mr. Colbert. If you could tell us why you're interested in this open position and give us your background, that would be great.
With my extensive knowledge of the electrical field, primarily in distribution, I started off at a generating station after leaving high school, vocational school. I spent 7 years with that power company called Boston Edison Company, now Eversource. I worked 3 years in the power plant, learning power plant experience, and then I moved outside to their underground distribution department, where I worked in substations, constructed underground distribution equipment, installed manholes. We did our own excavation, installed our own duct banks, high voltage cable, and I'm a certified high voltage splicer. I've been an electrician since, well, for over 50 years, let's put it that way. Those in the electrical field would know by my number that I'm an old guy. But I think very much I can work with Peabody Municipal Light Plant and the commissioners. I have a very outgoing personality, and I really don't like talking about myself, but this is what it's supposed to be. I enjoy life. I can meet with people. I ran construction meetings for a private company that I worked for after I left the power company. For 35 years, we worked for the federal government, mostly federal work, state work, FAA, the GSA, doing high voltage installation and upgrades up and down the East Coast. A lot of my time, I missed Little League games here in Peabody because I was away out of town. But I had an unbelievable experience. I have absolutely no regrets of what I did for a living. I'm proud to be a citizen of Peabody. I moved here 44 years ago. When Mayor Betancourt, who I'm sorry is not here, when he found out in 2015 that I actually retired, he called me and asked me to become part of the city and work part-time as a consultant to the mayor himself for the Higgins Middle School. I took over that position in the second half of the construction of the school. Since then, I've continued to be a school building committee member. I was a resident representative for Crystal Lake when that project was being done, and I continue here in Peabody as a volunteer member of the school board with the Welch School. I also was on the Board of Appeals for 2.5 years. Recently stepped down about a year ago. Again, in meeting with the Light Plant Commission, assuming I would love to get elected, I know I can get along with people. I know my experience and just everything I've learned in the electrical life, I believe solely, truly would help out the light plant and the commission. So in preparing for this meeting tonight, I wanted to do it without notes. I want to be able to stand here and say I did not make contact with any light plant commission member or any member of the city council. I did not talk to anybody. This was strictly on my own. I hope that you people will consider voting for me and accepting me as the next commission member for the light plant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colbert. I'd like to open it up to my fellow councilors and commissioners with questions. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Mr. Colbert. Your resume is expansive, especially when it comes to being an electrician for the amount of time that you have been, and your knowledge is vast. The same question actually to you as well as to the last candidate. What do you think is your biggest weakness? I know you've been, as you said, heavily involved with the Higgins building project. You've been on different committees in the city. Your knowledge base is extensive, but what would you say is your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness? To be honest with you, and I don't think it's a weakness, I did not attend college. I came right out of vocational school and went right to work in the electrical industry, but I'm very proud of that. But my wife and I made sure that our two sons, who are now well in their 40s, did go to school, did get college degrees, and that's something that I can honestly say I might have missed out on, but my field experience and my knowledge of what I've learned the hard way is, I think, a big benefit, that would be a big benefit to the light plant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. Councilor Manning Martin.
Yes, through you to Mr. Colbert. Mr. Colbert, I have to say I was unaware of the many, many things that you've done and the dedication and contributions you've made to the city. So I am delighted that you did come forward here tonight to educate me and many others in the city for the amount of work that you've done for the city, volunteering and making the city a better place, specifically in our schools. So I'm glad that you came forward and shared that with us, and I want to personally thank you for everything that you've done.
I want to thank you, and I don't feel as though I did that much for the city. Again, all my working years, I was not even here a lot of the time. But as I retired, I wanted to do some work for the city, not even necessarily get paid, volunteer work. I just want to stay involved and keep my brain going. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Colbert. Anything else, Councilor Manning Martin? Good. Okay. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ed, I want to thank you for your dedication to the city of Peabody and all the help you have rendered to nonprofits, those helping people to get through life and with a little help from their friends. And you were the leader of that, and I thank you for doing that. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Commissioner Paris.
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for your dedication to the city and going along with Ann Manning said, Councilor Manning. But and also, I want to say your experience would be very helpful to our board moving forward, faced with all the new technology we're facing. But thank you very much for coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paris. Any other councilors or commissioners? Seeing none. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
I probably shouldn't. He'll probably get mad at me. But the electrical inspector here in the city, all right, Sean Mahoney, he's probably been here now 9, 10 years as your inspector. I brought him into the electrical trade. It was a second career for him, and he wasn't happy what he was doing, and I bumped into him, and I talked him into coming to the company I was with and brought him in under my wing as a entry-level apprentice. And I think a lot of people here know who he is, and I think he's doing a great job for the city. On the way home, he'll probably shoot me, but that's all right. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Colbert. I'd now like to call Mr. Mark Nazzaro to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Nazzaro. If you could just provide your name and address for the record.
Mark Nazzaro, 16 Apple Hill Road.
Thank you, Mr. Nazzaro.
Good evening. My name is Mark Nazzaro. I'd like to thank the City Council and the Light Commission for the opportunity to be considered for the open position of Light Commission. I've been a property owner in Peabody for over 30 years and a resident for over 20. I've raised my family in Peabody and have benefited from the superb services of the city and the Light Department. I'm an employee at the electrical utility Eversource Energy and a member of Utility Workers Union of America, Local 369. I've been a power system technician in the field engineering department for 35 years at Eversource. As a power system technician, I have knowledge and hands-on experience in the design, installation, maintenance, and repair of generation, transmission, and distribution electrical substation equipment. I've also been a licensed Massachusetts master and journeyman electrician for over 35 years. I'm seeking to become a light commissioner to bring my 35 years of knowledge in the electrical utility industry to help guide and preserve the delivery of electricity to the ratepayers of Peabody and Linfield in the safest, most reliable, and cost-efficient way for today and future generations. Coming from a company and a union that stresses safety first, I will strive to make sure that the employees that make the light department an asset to the city have the latest in safety gear, tools, and procedures so they can return home safely to their families at the end of the day. This can be achieved by having proper fire-resistant clothing, switchgear, along with arc flash mitigation, and the use of proper tagging, isolation, and grounding procedures. The future will bring many challenges to the light department with the continued electrification of heating and automobiles. The demand for electricity will continue to increase as the use of fossil fuels decrease. It will be up to the light commissioners to meet these challenges now and in the future. These challenges can be met by purchasing power through diverse generation sources and upgrading the substations and power lines. In my 35 years in the electrical utility industry, I know firsthand that the processes of planning, designing, permitting, purchasing, and installing equipment takes years. The reliable and cost-efficient electrical system we enjoy today are the results of the past light commission's decisions to upgrade the system with the best technology and equipment that was available to them at the time. Unfortunately, the reason why we are here tonight to choose a new light commissioner is because of the controversy over the 2015A project, also known as the peaker plant. It was forecasted back in 2016 that for the light department to meet its generation obligations to the regional electrical grid controller, a new generation source would be needed. It was determined in 2016 through best engineering practices that the light department, to meet its generation obligation, a new natural gas peaker plant was the best technology to use. Peaker plants are quick start standby generators that are needed in instances of high demand, electrical failures, grid stability, and emergencies. Today, this peaker plant is still the best and most reliable, time-proven technology to generate standby power. There is no other generation technology today that can provide its maximum rated output within 10 minutes of starting and doing so continuously for 24 hours a day if needed. The new plant will have the latest pollution control technology and will be cleaner and more efficient than the plant that is replacing. I am 100% for renewable energy. However, as we transition from fossil fuels to renewables, natural gas is the cleanest fuel to make this transition, just as hybrid cars were the transition from gas to electric vehicles. People have suggested that we use battery storage systems to provide backup power. Unfortunately, the current site is not large enough to house the number of batteries that would be needed to provide 60 megawatts of continuous power that the new plant will provide. The current battery technology can only provide its maximum output for 4 hours before it would need to be recharged for 8 to 10 hours. Electricity needed to recharge the batteries in the off-peak nighttime hours would more than likely come from fossil fuel generated electricity because solar would not be available at night. Also, if there was a regional power outage, there would be no way to recharge the battery. Wind power is also not an option because it cannot provide on-demand continuous emergency power. Solar power is also not an option because it cannot provide on-demand continuous power 24 hours a day. Currently, the Light Department purchases power from a diverse mix of energy sources to provide electricity to its customers, including nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, and natural gas. I stand by the past Light Commission's decision to install this new state-of-the-art peaker plant. If I am chosen tonight to become the new Light Commissioner, I will not shut down the plant because it is still the best available technology to provide continuous power when needed. In my 35 years of electrical utility knowledge, to research, implement the newest, most reliable, cost-efficient green technology to meet Peabody's future power needs. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your consideration for the position of Light Commissioner. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Nazaro. We'll now open it up to the councilors and commissioners for any questions. Councilor Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Nazaro, your electrical background is expansive. I thank you for your time coming this evening, and I thank you for your resume. Do you have any civic background, anything that you have done in the past as far as volunteer work or contributions to the city as a whole?
My volunteer work would be at my children's school. I volunteer a lot of time for when they were in elementary school. But unfortunately, this is the first time I am seeking any public office. I'm usually very reserved and quiet, but as I age, I feel like my knowledge can become of use to the city and the residents.
Thank you. Your knowledge is absolutely expansive, and I appreciate that. What would you say is your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness would probably be becoming in the public spotlight, becoming an elected official or appointed official. I'm usually reserved. I keep to myself. I don't have any social media. I don't want people to know what I do. I'm very quiet, reserved, and this is the first for me to come out in public speaking, and be, you know, if I am chosen tonight, I would have to campaign and meet with people, and that will be a challenge for me, which I look forward to, and I look forward to giving back to the city.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. Any other councilors or commissioners with questions for Mr. Nazaro? Councilor Paris.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for coming forward, and we are gathered here tonight to elect someone to come on the Municipal Light Board, and I have to say your education, your understanding of our industry is unbelievable, and you should be highly considered by anyone here tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
I've spent my whole career in electricity. I went to vocational school, so since the 10th grade, I've been involved in electricity, master's, journeyman license, Eversource Energy, from every type of construction that we do, from testing. I know pretty much all of it.
Thank you, Mr. Nazaro. Thank you, Commissioner Paris. Any other councilors or commissioners with questions for Mr. Nazaro? Commissioner D'Amato.
Yeah, Mark, I'd like to state for the record that I had no input in that presentation, but it was spot on, eloquent, concise, and perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner D'Amato. Any other councilors or commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Nazaro.
Thank you.
I'd now like to call Mr. Thomas J. Pappas to the podium. And for the record, Mr. Pappas, if you could state your name and your address.
Thomas J. Pappas, 173 Winona Street.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. And if you could give us some background and why you're interested in this position. Thank you.
I have something prepared I'd like to read this evening. Thank you to the citizens of Peabody and cable subscribers who, in part, make this broadcast possible along with the PAT tonight. As the Cable Television Commission Chairman, I take part in 2 10-year licenses that secure over $1 million for the PAT in this community. Thank you to each individual of the City Council and Light Plant Commissioners, and to our City Clerk and the City Solicitor. I am respectfully gracious and humbled to be able to speak in front of you this evening. I really mean that, and those who really know me really know that I mean that. Again, I'm Tom Pappas. I am a double oath of office official performing the role of public servant. Let me be crystal clear. I'm performing the role of public servant with the citizens' best interest always. There's no variation there. As you know, I am an elected library trustee and appointed by this council as a Peabody Cable Television Commissioner. You also have my credentials in front of you, along with my letters, so we're not going to talk about my technical background unless you have questions. I've painted my intentions with a broad brushstroke with the intent of compelling you to cast your vote for me in favor of the Electric Light Commission position. I do have a master's degree of science in electrical engineering, and I am a certified member of the American Society of Quality for Management and Operational Excellence, and have operated under the open meeting law. I have been referred to as a bridge builder by a former city solicitor, and I agree with this because I like bringing all involved parties together, creating a cooperative environment. Let me be crystal clear again. As an Electric Light Commissioner, I will be accessible and provide transparency to you in support of Peabody citizens, and I will collaborate with the PMLP and city government. I want this job because I want to fight for the people of Peabody to ensure the lowest rates. With rising costs of energy, it is of paramount importance to the people of Peabody to be protected, especially and primarily our most vulnerable people on fixed income. I want this job because I want to fight for the people of Peabody to continue to provide safe and reliable power. It isn't enough to have access to power, it needs to stay on when it is needed most. I want this job because I want to fight for the citizens of Peabody to continue ensuring that the PMLP's initiatives are met. I want this job because I want to fight for the people of Peabody to ensure operations are staffed sufficiently to support our electrical power infrastructure and customers. I want this job because I want to fight for the people of Peabody and take care and protect our valuable electrical resource that everybody relies on. I am an environmentalist. I try my best to reduce energy consumption, reduce my driving by over 50 miles a day, because thanks to working at home and COVID, right? And I recycle everything I can. I embrace green interest, and mark my words, you may end up calling me the Green Electric Light Commissioner. I wasn't here when making decisions on the 2015A project, but I want to be here to move forward, investigating meaningful solutions to improve emissions. From what I understand talking with Memwick, the equipment manufacturer is actively seeking to add green hydrogen into the fuel capability. And guess what? The emissions of this is pure water. There are also technologies for scrubbing emissions that I want to investigate. From what I understand, the existing 50-year-old peaker plant emits more pollution than the 2015A state-of-the-art technology, and the old peaker plant has become challenging and expensive to maintain. I understand why the 2015A path was chosen. I'm also aware of a letter dated January 24th, 2023 from our Department of Health and Human Services. Let me say that I am for meeting the letter of the law and regulations because I strongly believe that they are in place to protect people. We as a people in government need to make sure we continue to proceed carefully and weigh all potential outcomes for decisions made. We have a strong business base in Peabody that relies on our electricity. I worked for an employer where we had to disconnect from the grid in hot summer days on high demand days. It was great. We would shut down, and I got the afternoon off to go fishing. In all seriousness, I will fight for and support continued reliable delivery of electricity in Peabody. Make no mistake, our strong business base helps keep our property taxes low. As your choice for Electric Light Commissioner, you can expect a fighter for the best interest of the people of Peabody and for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Now I'd like to open it up to our councilors and commissioners with any questions for Mr. Pappas. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Mr. Pappas, thank you for your time served on the the library trustee, and thank you for your knowledge regarding being an electrical engineer. Same question to you that I've actually asked the other candidates. What do you think is your biggest weakness?
Public speaking, but in all seriousness, I tend to do an awful lot. I'm on the Cable Commission. That takes a lot of my time. I'm a library trustee. That takes a lot of my time. I'm involved with the Library Foundation. That takes my time. So I guess maybe one of my weaknesses is giving up a lot of my time. And I also balance that with my family, which is of most importance, and my son and basketball games. So somehow, this is my weakness. This is probably not getting enough sleep as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Are there any other councilors or commissioners who'd like to speak? Commissioner Paris.
Yes, Tom, I want to thank you for your community service. I also want to say that I recognize your education and your experience, and you truly be an asset to our board. And I hope everyone here realizes that we are trying to select a commissioner that would help us move forward, and I think you would provide a lot of knowledge and experience that we need going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paris. Are there any other councilors or commissioners who would like to speak? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Pappas.
Thank you for your time.
I'd now like to call Ms. Tracy Valetti to the podium. If you could just provide your name and your address for the record, please.
Tracy Valetti, 20 Emerson Street.
Thank you, Ms. Valetti. And if you could share why you're interested in this open position and your background. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, members of the City Council and Light Commission. Again, my name is Tracy Valetti, and I hope to continue to serve my community by being appointed to the vacancy left by Mr. Bonfanti's retirement. I want to thank Mr. Bonfanti for his years of service to PMLP and the community. The slogan of the Peabody Light Commission is community-owned, not-for-profit, it's ours. It's a commitment, not just to low rates, but also to reflect the will of the people of this incredible city. I'll bring extensive managerial experience, my record as a public servant, and a compelling vision for the future. I own a small healthcare business here in Peabody. Previously, I served as executive director of several assisted living facilities. I was charged with balancing a budget while providing optimal care and services to my residents. I never spent a penny that didn't need spending, and that economic health trickled down to maintaining a great quality of life for my residents. I'm especially proud of an initiative I spearheaded to replace all the lighting in one of my facilities with LEDs in order to lower electricity costs in the long term and free up money for quality initiatives elsewhere. As is so often the case, the green option turned out to be the most financially responsible solution. I have a long record of work in the private sector, but I am just as proud of my work as a public elected official here in Peabody. From 2012 to 2017, I served the people as a trustee of the Peabody Public Library, improving our library for future generations. I learned early on that the secret to good governance is collaboration and an open ear. My fellow trustees and I didn't always agree on everything, but as long as we treated each other with respect and actually listened, we were able to reach a solution. I'm extremely proud of the fact that after 2 years of service on the board, my colleagues elected me as their president. It was the same love of public service that led me to run for Light Commissioner in 2021. I ran on a message of balancing increased renewable energy sources with low rates. Like many of my neighbors, I was concerned about the peaker plant. However, I recognize that the peaker plant is being built and will be up and running in a few short months. And I refocused my efforts after the election to become a designated green community, and by recently joining the city's Green Peabody Committee. I want to serve the people as I have throughout my career, and I believe that this commission is a great place to invest in the future and create a cleaner, more livable community for our residents. I spent many months campaigning, speaking to hundreds of people on their doorsteps. I heard directly from the people who pay to make the PMLP run. Towards the end of their campaign, I was even endorsed by the Salem News, who wrote that I have an impressive professional and civic resume. After months of speaking and listening to our community, I was honored that so many voters agreed. Peabody voters rewarded my hard work by elevating me to the runoff, where I earned 2,673 votes, coming in as the runner-up. I believe these results demonstrate that there is a public appetite for the vision I've described to you here. As a Light Commissioner, I will be committed to fiscal responsibility. I'm extremely clear-eyed about whose money we are entrusted to spend. And as a Commissioner, I will make sure we spend wisely, just as I did as a library trustee, as an executive director, and as a small business owner. That is precisely why, if appointed, I'm so excited to advance the push to convert us to a designated green community, using the same principles I applied in my LED conversion decision. $1 invested today can yield $5 down the road if we do it right. I understand that some people may have concerns that I do not have electrical or energy experience. I hope that you can see the value in adding some diversity of background to the Light Commission, such as my background in balancing budgets, community relations, and public service. The Light Commission is a policy-making board entrusted with steering the ship and ensuring the PMLP remains connected to its customers. It is an elected body in order to encourage people to participate in decision-making. Being an effective elected official means embracing a diversity of thought and experience, listening to all sides, and knowing how to work with others to make the right choices for all. I have done a lot for Peabody during my 30 years of living here, and I want to do more. Thank you for your time, and I hope to earn your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Villetti. I'd like to now open it up for our, yes, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tracy, I just want to thank you for the fact that you ran at this past election. I saw how hard you worked. I was often just behind you, knocking doors, and I would see your literature there. And if nothing, and you came up short, but you showed up again tonight, and you still have a willingness to serve and to be a part of this commission, and I really do commend you for that. And I also think you've shed such a huge light on the fact that we have a Light Commission. There are many residents that I've spoken to just in my ward, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree, many people who didn't know we had an elected Light Commission, and you have educated them on that, and for that I'm very grateful, and thank you for coming and putting yourself out again tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mrs. Villetti, for coming. Your civic past is noteworthy, and I appreciate your time. And the one question I do have is the same that I've asked the other contestants. What would you say is your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness, and you can probably ask my family, they'll say the same thing, is that I do too much. I work a lot. And that's just who I am. I know that I have, one of the things I look forward to is really understanding how MWEC and ISO and PMLP really work together, and that whole energy landscape. I think that's something that I look forward to learning, but that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. Are there any other councilors or commissioners who would like to ask any questions? Seeing none, I just had one question for you, Ms. Villetti. You talked about getting a green community designation for the city of Peabody. Could you maybe expand upon that and let us know what's involved with that type of designation?
Sure. Well, actually, it's a year ago this week that I came before that the councilors actually voted on. So that's, as I understand, it's sitting with Kurt Ballavance right now. There is a checklist that needs to be performed in order to get that application rolling. Once the checklist is, and I believe there's 5 components to the checklist, once those are satisfied and the application goes through, the city, just for applying, should get about $250,000 in grant money. So that's the first step. But after that, then it opens us up to be able to apply for future dollars. You know, our neighbors have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in being able to retrofit buildings, EV charging stations, programs to teach about how we can consume energy less, educational programs. There's a lot that's offered through that designation.
Thank you, Ms. Folletti. Commissioner Paris.
Yeah, in answering about the green community, what are the disadvantages that we have to put up with to be a green community? Do you understand all those?
The disadvantages?
Yes.
To me, there's no disadvantages.
The commitments we have to make and the disadvantages we'd have to go through to be a green community.
Well, I would like to hear that from you, because I don't see the disadvantages, and considering 97% of all the Massachusetts communities have done that.
Thank you.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Ms. Folletti. Ms. Folletti, are you aware that the city of Peabody attempted to become one of the first communities in the state to be a green community back in 2008, maybe?
I had heard that, yeah.
And do you know the reason why we did not enter into being a green community?
Not really. I don't know the full facts of that.
The Peabody Municipal Light Plant rejected the idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Commissioner Paris.
Yes, I just want to address Councilor Manning Martin. She's right. But do you know the reason why we refused?
Excuse me, I apologize.
All right, no, I take that back.
No, that's okay. That's okay, Commissioner Paris. But for the sake, no, that's okay. I appreciate it. But for the sake of giving each candidate an opportunity to speak and share their credentials, we're going to keep it just with the candidates and questions to the candidates.
Sorry.
That's okay. Any other commissioners or councilors? Yes, Commissioner Melvin.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for showing up this evening, Tracy, and your hard work and effort in your campaign. My question to you is, how do you plan on dealing with the peaker plant issue going forward? It is currently being built, and the coalition that you had behind you in your campaign is they want to get rid of the peaker plant. So, you know, when we talk about green energy and you talk about battery storage and all that stuff, you know, battery storage doesn't last very long. It goes quickly. This is a type of energy that you get quick and fast when people want to come home in July and turn their air conditioners on. If there's a demand out there, we could actually see rolling brownouts and blackouts in the future. I'm just curious how you plan on handling that going forward.
So thank you for your question. As a healthcare professional, first off, I'll say that I was very disturbed when I learned about the peaker plant being built. But as I said, it is being built. And as I've told many other people, we're not in a position to stop it. So I refocused my energies right after the campaign and learning more about becoming a designated green community so we can help mitigate anything that's going on that could hurt the climate and our health, the health of the residents that live here. So I learned what I could about becoming a designated green community and by joining that other committee in Peabody. And that's how I want to try to help bring solutions to Peabody. So I'm not in a position, I'm not going to try to stop the peaker, if that's what you're asking.
Just for the record, that's not true. That peaker plant could still be stopped, and the coalition is still trying to stop that peaker plant. And with our new governor that's in there now, that's a very possibility. So to me, that will leave the ratepayers on the hook for somewhere north of $25 million. And I think this is energy. It's quick. It's probably not as efficient as somebody with green energy would like. But I think going forward, we should really look closer at how we can make that a cleaner burning unit. And, that's kind of what I was kind of thinking that you would be talking about.
Well, as I stated before, I'm moving my energy into different ways to help mitigate and broaden renewable solutions. But it's not going to be I'm not going to be actively trying to stop the peaker plant, because I know it's going to be up and running in a few short months.
Thank you, Commissioner Melvin. Commissioner D'Amato.
Tracy, thanks again for coming forward and putting your name into nomination. You're a familiar candidate. You've been to many of the meetings, and I'll say tonight what I've said in the past, that I applaud your energy and your efforts. I'll also state that I don't agree with a lot of what you think, but doesn't mean I'm not open to a different perspective. You happen to be the last of many great candidates this evening. So I just think on behalf of the board, I'm flattered that so many well-qualified people are coming forward, and I don't think we can lose tonight. So good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Folletti. We do have 2 other candidates that will be coming up, just as a point of clarification. Any other questions for Ms. Folletti? Councilor Daigle. Ms. Folletti, if you could please come back up.
Sorry for the delay. No, this is a comment more than a question. I want to commend Tracy Valetti, because despite coming in third at the last election, I know that she's followed the commission, and she's been in constant contact with me and with the city's Municipal Green Committee, or I always butcher the name, but she's been very active since then, so I applaud that she's gone to every single meeting since then and stayed active. So thank you. I think energy is the word of the night, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Daigle. Any other councilors or commissioners who would like to ask a question of Ms. Folletti? Great seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Folletti. I'd now like to call Ms. Nancy Verocci to the podium. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Oh, it's Verocchi.
Okay, thank you. If you could just provide your name and your address and tell us why you're interested in the open position. Thank you, Ms. Verocchi.
Oh, yes. My name is Nancy E. Verocchi, and I live at 2 Carpenter Street in Peabody. And I'm probably the odd man out here. I came to be here because tonight, can you hear me? Okay. I was looking at the Peabody, Mass. Government website, actually looking for a job. And I was looking at your job openings, and I saw that you had a vacancy. I just noticed it because I regularly go to the website and look that up, that you were looking for somebody to fill in at the Peabody Electric Light Commission for a year. And I thought, wow, that sounds like a really great job. So I decided to apply. Said anyone could, so I did. And I have no experience, except I was born in Peabody, and I hope to die in Peabody because I love Peabody. And I thought it just would be a real cool job to learn. I don't have, unlike the other candidates, I don't have a stellar resume, but I'm honest and hardworking and humble, and I believe in everything you're doing. I am totally behind the peaker plant. I first heard about it, you know, the groups are against it, and I looked into it. And what I found out is it really is the best option for right now. I mean, I know that you're planning to go green in the future, and I like that, but I also realize that your constraints are, sometimes in life you're constrained by decisions that went before. And you've already dumped a lot of money into the peaker plant, and I think you should, at this point in time, you should go ahead and open up the peaker plant. And people have to realize that transitions to green energy take time. And at this point in time in Peabody, with the situation the way it is, and the constraints, really the best option is the peaker plant right now. So your main job is to provide electricity for the citizens and provide it at the lowest rate possible and figure out where you're going to go forward. And I think you're all doing that, and I totally agree with it. And if you hire me, I'll do a good job for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Faraki. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very brief, Ms. Faraki, you are the reason that we love Peabody, and you are the reason Peabody is such a great place to live. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Are there any other councilors or commissioners? Commissioner Paris?
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for coming forward. And I want to reiterate with Councilor Gould.
Okay.
I mean, you are truly representative of all the people we represent, and that's what's important. Thank you so much for coming forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Paris. I'd like to open up to any other councilors or commissioners. Commissioner Melvin.
I'd like to thank you as well. And I also understand and respect the fact that you said about green energy and the speed that it's taking. Sounds like you're pretty in tune with that. As we already saw from countries like Germany, California, Texas, I think we're moving at a very fast pace. We're the most well invested here in Peabody as a municipal. And I just want to thank you for that, for acknowledging that, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Melvin. Any other councilors? Any other commissioners? Commissioner D'Amato.
Nancy, it's not fun to go last, but it's hard not to echo the sentiments of my fellow public servants. I stood where you are standing right now 20 years ago. It's not easy to get up in front of people and tell them why you want a job or why you want to be appointed to a position for which you might not be super qualified. I was in the same spot. I want to commend you for your energy, and it is people like you that make me proud to be a resident. Thank you.
Okay. Am I all set now?
Thank you, Commissioner D'Amato. Any other councilors or commissioners with questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Faraki.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
And thank you, and it's lovely to meet everybody.
You as well. I'd now like to call Mr. Robert Wheatley to the podium, please.
It's a long sit out there.
Good evening, Mr. Wheatley. If you could just provide your name and your address for the record, and then let us know.
My name is Robert O. Wheatley, 19 Southwick Avenue, Peabody, Mass. 55 years I've lived there. Now, I'm going to start off with some of the accomplishments that PMLP has done. Ball fields, football fields, high energy, 24 kV conversion to make the lights in Peabody brighter. We've done all sorts of numerous things, a contribution to the city conference every year, a small stipend that we give them. Now I want to get into the real thing. PMLP is owned by the citizens of Peabody. It's going to be a tough years coming up. I'm not going to talk about the Pica plant. The Pica plant is done. That's 2015A. I voted on it. I voted for it. It's going to be tough for PMLP to maintain the 20% discount that we give all our citizens and to stay in the bottom three as far as the rates go. It's not going to be an easy task. It's going to require some common sense. It's going to require a lot of thinking, a lot of motivation. We have some good leadership. The guys that are on the board now know what I'm talking about. We don't get credit for all the things we do, but we do a lot of good things on the board. I can answer any questions you want. I got 24 years service as a Peabody Light Commissioner. So anybody wants to ask me anything at all about the commission, I think I can answer their questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wheatley. I'd like to open it up to any councilors or commissioners. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Wheatley, thank you very much for your service on PMLP for all of those years. My one question is the same as I've asked most of the other candidates. What would you say is your biggest
I
weakness?
don't have one. I've been waiting all this time for you to ask me that question.
And? What is your biggest weakness?
I would have to ask Tom D'Amato on that one. He's been serving with me the longest, so he'd have to answer that question.
So without being on the PMLP, what would you say your biggest personal weakness is?
My personal weakness? Geez, I got a sore shoulder, so I was never good at baseball or football, you know. But I was very good operating jail service station for 40 years, right in the city of Peabody. Contributed a lot of things that will go unmentioned, a lot of money here, a lot of money there. Different things like Mr. Gould does at his thread wells. I did it in a different manner. My hands got dirty.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Any other councilors or commissioners? Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you to Mr. Wheatley. I also just want to thank you. Your name was also on the ballot this past election, and for the many years that you've served the city and on the commission. You've done a lot, so just thank you for putting yourself out there and coming back tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you. I as well want to thank Mr. Wheatley for his years of service with the PMLP, and also want to note the many times that he ran for office for that position. And
How many times?
How many? 7?
Before I got elected.
Yes. Before you were appointed, right? You were
Before
appointed.
I was appointed, right.
You were appointed because you ran for office.
I went through
and then
this
you were
whole-
the highest vote getter, and then you were appointed.
I
Much
was
like
through-
many other people who've gone through this process 3 times. So
I
thank
went-
you, Bob. You don't have any weaknesses. I think
Thank
you're
you.
wonderful.
I went through this process and it took 11 rounds. Then I knocked them out in the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Gamache.
I also want to thank Mr. Wheatley for his service. I was on the board when we appointed you 24 years ago.
That's right.
And he's
The only
right.
one.
Huh?
The only one.
Yeah, the only one left. But to get back to Councilor Martin's, Manning Martin's statement is that Bob ran quite a few times before he became a municipal light commissioner. And Bob, for the first couple of ballots, didn't have my support. But after we wound up going through 11, was it 11 rounds?
11.
He got the support. So it's something that he rightfully deserved. We can say that now because you've served for 24 years and you've done a remarkable job. What you've done has been probably, other than I think Mr. Paris, probably one of the longest serving commissioners.
Tom's father was the longest.
Yeah, Tex. Tex was,
right.
yeah. But anyways, I want to thank you for your service and stay healthy and enjoy what you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Any other councilors? Commissioner Paris.
Yeah, Bob, I want to thank you for the many years of service and also for the education you gave me through all those years. Thank you so much.
I had to work hard at doing that.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't even know if it worked.
Thank you, Commissioner Paris. Councilor Daigle.
I wasn't going to speak up, but if my dad is in Ossipee, New Hampshire, watching, he'll blame me if I don't. I think I don't know what round it was, but thank you, Bob. My first campaign experience was for you dropping flyers when I was 13 or so. So I appreciate that experience
right.
and your service.
Eddie made you do it.
He did, but it was fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Any other councilors or commissioners? Commissioner D'Amato.
Bob, you're right.
This is the one I was afraid of. Go ahead.
Oh, Bob, I'm your biggest
Go ahead.
supporter. Well, we did serve for 18 years, and it's a shame the meetings weren't televised. That's all I can say. And I'm happy to announce that
I agree with you.
this is the first time I've seen you since the election a year and a half ago, and you have not lost your fastball.
Thank you.
I bet you still have an encyclopedic knowledge of all things like plant, and there's no question you would help us if you got on the board. But I wish you well, and thanks for putting your name in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Commissioner
set,
D'Amato.
gentlemen, ladies. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wheatley. And before we move forward with the vote, I just want to take an opportunity to say thank you to each of the candidates that have come here tonight. Mr. Bacon, Mr. Colbert, Mr. Nazzaro, Mr. Pappas, Ms. Valetti, Ms. Verrocchi, and Mr. Wheatley. Everyone in this room who's sitting in one of these seats understands what's required to put forth an effort to put yourself out there and to maybe speak outside of your comfort zone because you want to do good for the city of Peabody. And I know that we're all very grateful for you to take the time and to put forth the hard work to really put yourself out there and help make our community a better place. So thank you very much for your effort and for your willingness to do so. To the councilors and commissioners, before we start this, just a reminder, we're going to go through, we're going to do roll call vote. And at roll call, you're going to, it's going to be alphabetical by last name, and you're going to speak the candidate's name that you want to put forth for this open position. And the first candidate who gets to 8 votes will be selected as the next light commissioner. Before we start, if there's any questions, I'll defer to Councilor Khan as far as the rules or proceedings go. Seeing none, we will move forward with a roll call vote alphabetically to determine our next light commissioner.
Councilors, Commissioners, Aylward.
Tracy M. Valetti.
Daigle.
Tracy M. Valetti.
Gamache.
Thomas J. Pappas.
Gould.
Tracy Valetti.
Manning Martin.
Tracy Valetti.
McGinn.
Tracy Valetti.
Melville.
Tracy Valetti.
Melvin.
I respectfully vote for Tom Pappas.
O'Neill.
Tracy Valetti.
Paris.
Tom Pappas.
Peach.
Tracy Valetti.
Rosignol.
Tom Pappas.
Turco.
Tracy Valetti.
Welton.
Tracy Valetti.
D'Amato.
Thomas J. Pappas.
Tracy Valetti, electric light commissioner with 9 votes. Excuse me, that was 10 votes.
Tracy, on behalf of the Light Commission and the Peabody Municipal Light Plant, I want to welcome you to the board. We're looking forward to your perspective, and we'll see you Thursday night. Congratulations.
Thank you again, everyone. Thank you again. And just as a reminder, Ms. Valetti, the oath will be administered directly after this meeting. I'd like to thank our colleagues from the Peabody Municipal Light Commission and my fellow colleagues on the council, and I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got to do it by roll call vote. So we got to do.
Yep. Councilors, Commissioners, Aylward. Yes. Daigle.
Yes.
Gamache. Gould. Manning Martin. McGinn.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Melvin. O'Neill.
Yes.
Paris. Peach.
Yes.
Rosignol.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Motion carries.